Some scientists at Playtime Company died instantly, but others suffered something far worse, trapped inside monsters, hunted by their own experiments, or left alive long after they should have died. And the deeper I looked into the lore, the more disturbing these deaths became. So today, we're ranking the scientists who suffered the most painful fates in all of Poppy Playtime. Harley Sawyer is the obvious choice for the top spot, and the more you dig into what actually happened to him, the harder it is to argue otherwise. Before everything collapsed, he was the head of special projects at Playtime Co. and the original mind behind the Bigger Bodies initiative, the program responsible for turning orphan children into living experiments. And then the company did to him exactly what he had done to so many others. After too many failures, Leith Pierre made the call and Bruno White performed the procedure, turning Harley into Experiment 1354 against his will and splitting his body into two separate pieces. Half of him became a collection of organs kept alive inside machines called vital system centers, scattered around the prison in the dark, while the other half, the heart and the mind, was placed inside a robotic body known as the Doctor. What makes this truly unbearable is that he woke up fully aware of what had been done. He came back, understood everything immediately, and the first thing he did was threaten to kill Leith Pierre. He had spent years forcing children into that same surgery, and when it finally happened to him, all that philosophy about scientific sacrifice disappeared instantly. His mind kept running for years afterward, and he becomes the main villain of Chapter 4, still hunting, still existing inside the horror he helped create, with no quiet ending and no finish line in sight. The man who invented the cage ended up locked inside it, and the worst part is that he is still fully aware of that. Gracie Green worked as the lead counselor in the wellness and integration sector at Playtime Company, and her job was to create the conditioning videos used to erase the identities of the experiments. Those videos were designed to make orphan children forget who they were and accept their new bodies, and Gracie appeared in those recordings herself, speaking in a calm and friendly voice, telling traumatized kids that their transformation was a gift. She built the machine that broke people's minds. On August 8, 1995, those same experiments found her. The prototype decided that death was too easy, so instead of being killed, Gracie was surgically transferred into the Lily Lovebraid's toy chassis and became Experiment 1468. And once the surgery was done, the conditioning videos she had made years earlier began playing on the walls around her, playing back her own voice and face, repeating the same scripts she had used on the children. According to confirmed Chapter 5 lore, Gracie resisted the mental conditioning for 122 days, the longest of any experiment on record, which means that for 4 months, she fought to remember who she was while hearing her own voice trying to make her forget. She eventually lost, and her skeletal remains ended up locked in a heart-shaped bed inside Lily's room, with the fact that she held on that long and still lost, making the whole thing worse, not better. Thomas Clark had worked at Playtime Company since 1955 as a pediatrician and knew exactly what the factory was doing to the children, so when he was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer around 1991, his decision to volunteer for the Bigger Bodies initiative at 59 years old says everything about how terrified he was of dying. His organs and brain were transplanted into a brawn toy, and he became Experiment 1199. The result was far from what he had hoped for. The scientists observed that Thomas was far more disoriented than any of the orphan children who had gone through the same process, with his cognitive function dropping by nearly half. And when he was placed with the other experiments, they immediately knew he was different. An unknown attacker went straight for his throat and tore out his larynx and thyroid, removing the parts that would have allowed him to speak. And after a 12-hour surgery, the team kept him alive in a state where he could not talk, could not communicate, and likely never fully understood what he had become, which means he wanted to survive and ended up with something that barely counts as living. Jessica Newman was deeply connected to the experiments and the children at Playtime Company, which means that when the hour of joy started, she understood what was happening faster than almost anyone else in the building. There is a confirmed VHS tape called Restricted Salvation, where the prototype finds Jessica and Preston Willard after they survived the initial massacre. And under attack, Jessica tried to shift the blame for the Bigger Bodies initiative onto Leith Pierre, arguing that he was the one responsible for all of it, and it did not work because the prototype killed her regardless. What makes this so disturbing is the full realization she had in those final moments, that the experiments remembered everything, that they recognized the people who had hurt them, and that there was no argument in the world that was going to change what was coming. She had spent years watching children get turned into creatures, and in her last moments, those creatures were looking directly back at her, fully aware of who she was and what she had been part of. Scientist number 4 has one of the most terrifying deaths on this list, and what makes it terrifying is that we see almost none of it.
I'm not worried about myself. One breakthrough and I'll be back. We must forge onwards in the name of science, whether those who are beneath us understand it or not. End of...
During the hour of joy, an audio tape captured him, narrating the chaos in real time while the factory collapsed around him, and in the background, you can hear everything. Screams, destruction, creatures moving through the halls, and he keeps talking without stopping until the recording ends without a final statement, just silence, as if someone pressed stop without meaning to. We never find out exactly what happened, because the tape just cuts off and leaves everything to the imagination. That kind of ending hits differently than a confirmed death, and the fear in his voice during those last seconds says enough on its own. Preston Willard is one of the most complex scientists in the game, and his story ended in a way that a lot of the community forgets to mention.
I received this book a few months ago. I've read it cover to cover. I still don't understand why they hired me, a biologist at a toy company.
Before the hour of joy, Preston was a biologist who genuinely felt guilt about what the company was doing to the children, and he eventually became part of a group called The Conspiracy, employees who wanted to free the experiments from what was being done to them.
Employees see things they shouldn't. There are accidents, a nursery full of orphans, and nobody would ever know if anything happened to them.
What he did not expect was that the prototype had its own plans, and the rebellion became something far beyond what Preston had imagined. After the massacre, Preston and Jessica managed to hide in the labs for 10 days. 10 days of hearing noises in the hallways and fully understanding the kind of world the factory had become. And then Chum Chompkins found them. According to confirmed lore, Preston was caught and turned into an experiment by the prototype, not killed outright but transformed, meaning the same process he had spent years feeling guilty about was used on him in the end, and he became one of the very things he had tried to save. That detail does not get mentioned enough. Bruno White was Harley Sawyer's right-hand man and was present in the room when Harley woke up as Experiment 1354, forced to face the person he had worked alongside for years, now separated into organs and machinery, and demanding to know why, while Bruno knew exactly what had been done and who gave the authorization. When the hour of joy arrived, the corridors of Playtime Company became a hunting ground where most deaths were drawn out, because the creatures were not in a hurry, and Bruno's direct connection to Harley and the initiative meant he was almost certainly recognized. We do not have a confirmed recording of exactly what happened to him, but based on everything the lore tells us about how that day unfolded, a quick or peaceful death for someone in his position seems very unlikely. Stella Greyber is one of the most interesting cases here because we genuinely do not know what happened to her. She was the head of Playcare and knew about the Bigger Bodies initiative, and a confirmed VHS tape shows her admitting to Leith Pierre that the science behind the experiments impressed her even though the procedures horrified her, which is one of the most unsettling things about her character.
So, Ms. Greyber, have you considered what we talked about?
Yes, Mr. Pierre. I won't lie. I was at a loss for words at first. The information hit me pretty hard. I felt so badly. I still do. For the ones that go through the, testing.
When the hour of joy happened, her fate was never confirmed. There is a popular fan theory that Stella might actually be the player, based on the player's familiarity with the factory, access to restricted areas, and the confirmed existence of Stella's Omni Hand, and the game has not given us a definitive answer, which is exactly what keeps her story so open. Her position at number 8 only reflects the lack of confirmed suffering, and definitely not the lack of possible suffering, so if the darker theories about her turn out to be true, she could easily belong much higher on this list. Leith Pierre closes the ranking because, compared to everyone above him, he walked away with something no one else on this list managed to keep. He survived.
Hi, my name is Leith Pierre, and I'm the head of innovation here at the Playtime Co. Toy Factory.
He was the head of innovation, and Elliot Ludwig's successor as company chair, the one who authorized the order to turn Harley Sawyer into Experiment 1354 and kept the initiative running from the very top. And yet, when the hour of joy arrived, he was not inside the factory the way the others were. He still has his body and his identity, and in the universe of Poppy Playtime, where so many people lost both of those things permanently, that is a massive difference. Living with the knowledge of what the factory became carries its own kind of weight, but the suffering you carry in your memory is a completely different thing from the suffering you carry in your body. And for everyone above him on this list, the body was always where the worst part began. That's the full ranking. Drop a comment and tell me what you think. Does the order make sense to you, or would you move someone up or down? Maybe there's a scientist you think deserved a higher spot, or someone you feel I left out entirely. And if you're not subscribed yet, now is a good time, because there's a lot more Poppy Playtime lore coming. Thanks for watching.